coming up for the last speaker before lunch. He's a designer and educator, and he's been working with some of the most prestigious brands in the world. And he's currently also creative director for the Danish luxury brand
Georg Jensen.
Georg Jensen. So please welcome Todd Bracher.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I just came back from Chicago and from the NeoCon show, and this is fresh air. It's been talking business in American corporate America for the last I don't know how many hours. So it's really a pleasure to be here. And just to touch on, it's going to be short, maybe 10, 15 minutes. A little bit about. I'm not going to show you work. I just wanted to show you a little bit about sort of the process and the mentality that goes into what we do, and yeah, just to share it with you basically. What we do mainly, my main focus and love for me is context, and it sounds funny, but as a designer I think it's so important that what we're doing is relevant to what we're putting it into, and it's not about the object. It's actually, when I say context, it's about a lot more than that. And this image, you know, it's sort of obvious. It's the context we're talking about is is the world, and but even more specifically, Darwin explains it very well, and obviously with natural selection, and his study of the finches in Galapagos, and where you of course have the shape of the bird is determined by how it feeds and how it lives. So if it's feeding on nectar or if it's feeding on insects, you have different results of what their form is. So it's not just about what it looks like. For me, it's in fact it's not what it looks like is what's important to me. So obviously when we talk about then design, it's a little bit more specific again, and it's almost cliche. It's again that human experience. It's about how we live, how we think, what makes us feel good, what makes us feel bad. It's all these traits. It's not just the commercial aspect. And when we talk about design beyond design, it's for me super important to communicate that. So these are just some keywords that touch on that for me. It's using words that an object that has desire, something that's natural, that's honest, that's useful, it's communicative, it has meaning. You know, these are all parts that shape what is the human experience. It's again not the end result alone. It's all these other attributes that enrich in what it is that we do. So, and using something's parallel to Darwin is this concept of irreducible complexity, and the mousetrap is the sort of classic example of something that's irreducibly complex. Meaning you can't take the spring away, it won't work. If you take the board away, it doesn't work. So I find it quite funny. But the one thing that they don't talk about is the cheese. And the cheese, to lure the mouse in, is the part that fascinates me. That's the intangible. And I think that's the last layer for me of what creates design, or good design. So, and you're using bread in that context as well. Bread is one of the oldest foods to man. And the idea that you can't take away the eggs, you can't take away the milk, you can't take away the flour. All these elements are the ingredients which create design. So again, going back to these attributes, it's very important that they all have a certain gravity. They all have, and depending on the project and what is it for which client and all these sort of things, they all have a certain gravity, and all of this is customized to the situation. This isn't a formula. And when you bring them all together, when they all start working in harmony, they give you the solution. And that's really how it works. And it's not, again, I do not care how it looks. It's just a byproduct of when you weigh in all of these elements. So, but the one thing that I really find important is singularity, and I keep using this word truth in the studio, and the idea that mathematics drives also what we do, and there needs to be a certain amount of truth in the work, and the mathematics brings that truth out. And but there's something I think a little more interesting from my perspective. It's poetry can bring out truth as well, and Hokusoi was one of my I guess my favorite. I'm just in love with what he stands for, and I had read this beautiful interview, I mean absolutely beautiful interview with him that's probably not true at all, and but I'll pretend it is. And he was very famous for drawing Mount Fuji, a Japanese illustrator, and in the 18th century, and he was absolutely fantastic. He would get up every day apparently and draw Mount Fuji, and he would just draw it over and over. And when he was 50 years old, he gave this interview where the interviewer said, well, you're really good. You've been drawing now Mount Fuji for 25 years. So you're quite good at it now, and he was of course saying, oh no, I'm better now than I was when I was in my 30s. In my 30s, it took me 50 lines to draw Mount Fuji to say what I want to say, but now that I'm 50, it takes me 15 lines to draw it. So, and I could say as much with as few few words. For a few lines. I'm getting closer to singularity. And so she was, of course, very impressed, but he was not. And he said, well, I hope to continue to live to be maybe 150. And she laughs and says, why? So you can say it all in one line? And he said, of course, very deadpan. He says, no, so I can say it all in one point. And when I think of that, that's what I drive towards in my work. I really try to, how much could I say? And I use this, again, line, how much could I say? If I can only say one word, what would I say? And I think about that all the time. And take away all the extra, take away all the hot air and just boil it down. And in our world here, if you could only draw one line, what would you draw? And I think that's the challenge. So I just wanted to share that today. Thank you, guys.
That's pretty interesting. One word. Somebody have one question? Or more than that? One question that will say it all?
It's a difficult challenge.
Maybe I have a question.
Yeah.
So this is if you have one maybe one what is it in English? One device for not device. One
Advice.
advice. It is sorry. One advice for Georg Jensen.
Yeah.
As working with them as a creative director. What would that be?
Ooh, one piece of advice?
Yeah.
I would say
Not like 15. One.
just one. I would say the soul. It's really looking into the soul of what is this company, what is this brand, understanding its soul, and then letting that be expressed. Simple as that.
Thanks a lot, Todd.
Thank you, guys.
Just give him a hand.